Hello, everyone. This is Thomas Pepin, NHL Talk. I'm Thomas Pepin, and let's talk about the NHL. So, today we're going to be talking about the importance of depth players. Uh, the previous title of the stream was to do this and make adjustments potentially to the roster, but uh, as I discussed yesterday, it doesn't appear as though in terms of a cost benefit, that it's worth it for us to go in and make any adjustments because they would be very, very small improvements, if any, uh, to the roster because everything basically lined up. We got all the players we wanted, all at the dollar figures we wanted. Um, we have like the performance expectations we want. We're under the cap. Uh, Everything is essentially as good as it could be without really spending probably too much time uh, to improve it. So it's really not worth it. Again, well, I guess the main thing is I'm not getting paid to do this. Um, so for me to go and really go into the super fine details, it's not worth it. We're trying to demonstrate a number of points, the strategy broadly, things like that. Again, it's just not necessary, I think, at this point. Um, so as a result of that, we're just talking about the importance of depth players. Now, I was planning, or sorry, I should say, I was thinking about the subject, and I think it's better to demonstrate than it is to speak broadly because I believe I've already sufficiently spoken broadly about the subject when I went over the requirements in terms of depth for rosters, given player usage and things like that. So those statistics and whatever. Um, yeah, so I'll go back and discuss that as well, but I think it's, like I said, best demonstrated. So what I'm going to do is, in part, complete a bit of the work I was going to do tomorrow, uh, and then it'll, for one, make the stream tomorrow shorter and more concise, uh, and two, make it so that this one's just not it's not just some really super short one where I don't talk about much new. So anyways, so basically, like I said, I'm gonna demonstrate this with a clear example of the importance of depth players, talk about a few other extra things, and yeah, so that's the plan for today. Um, Now, I do need to pull things up because I just got to the computer right on time. So bear with me a couple moments. There we go. Um, how should I do this? I So, what was it? It was one full season, two, so three if we. So, I think what I'm going to do is take a look at the performance. Well, this is for tomorrow, but again, like I said, we're doing a portion of it today. Uh, Not discussing the things we're going to discuss tomorrow, but at least gathering the data because it's going to be relevant. So, what I'm going to do is it's pretty close to three full seasons if we add last season, the two COVID years, and this season up to date. Uh, oh, but is give me a sec. I gotta think of this. Yeah, I think that's still okay. Because, I mean, if they're shortened seasons, anyways, they're not perfectly representative, but the combination of all of them should be close. So, anyways, so that's what we'll do is use that time frame. So, um, as a result, then I can go to NHL.com. I do need that as well. So just a few seconds before I share. Okay, I think I'm good now. Anyways, sorry, I'm just trying to think about how to do this most efficiently. Skaters, we want 19, 20, 21, 22. Some results. Yeah, you know what? Okay, give me 1 second. I'm just gonna do something here. Okay. So I think I can share again. Oh, what I should have done is that. That's too late now. That's okay. All right. So to start, we need to gather all the performance data for the players that we have on the roster. So we've got Sebastian Aho goes up there. Franket's not there. Niederreiter's not there. Reinhardt's not there. Pedersen is. So he goes up. Larkin. No. Brown, no. I doubt any of the other guys are going to be on the list here, so we'll delete everybody else. There wasn't any other data I need, do I? don't think so. I hope not. We'll see. Alright, so now actually let's just go in order. So oh, yeah, that's probably easiest. So we'll filter. Oh no, I don't know if that'll actually work. Shoot, because if they change teams. Is there another way other than alphabetical? I can do forwards. It's got to be by points, I guess. Sam Reinhardt. It's gonna. Oh no. That sucks. Is there another way to do this? Shoot, that sucks. Okay, well, let's do this then. Who else did we have? Oops. One, two, three, four, five, six. Is Larkin gonna be there too? He is. Excellent. I don't think the rest will be there. So we'll go to the next screen. So Nino is there. Okay, so we have all of them. Is Kubalik gonna be there? I don't think so. He is. Man, the fact that he's on this, what is that, the second page uh, of point getters, and he's what, on our third line or something? Jeez. Preezy's I think I did well. I'm looking forward to seeing how it all pans out, but man, it's a pretty good start. Okay, so he's there too. No way. Our fourth line is worthy of the top 200 players. It's a pretty good start. Donato's not there. Sprong, I highly doubt. That should be it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So they should, I would predict, be on the next page, but we'll see. There's one, and it was Donato. Super. Okay. Well, that's not so difficult to get all the stats. It is annoying to not be able to do this more efficiently, but, or that I can think of at least, but what's going on? I think he's already there. And Sprong. Cool, so that's our stats for our forwards. Then we need our defense. Defense. Okay, well, we already know that he's there. So we need this one for sure. So Vince done. Brody, I'm assuming, is there. Now the rest I don't know. Well, he is too. Who else did we have? Montour. I'm guessing he's going to be there because I think he was our first choice, wasn't he? Man. This team's actually looking quite good. As much as, I mean, I don't know till we fully run the numbers. I used all the criteria very specifically, and I mean, yeah. So I was very careful, but and specific. But man, our team might be outstanding. So the only defenseman, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's only one that's not in the top 100 for points in the past 4 seasons, but it's essentially 3 seasons worth of games. And which one was it? Clifton, right? There he is. And I need to download. Okay, so now we have our full active roster combined. I can get rid of that. We will save that. Give me a brief moment here. Okay, so how do I want to do this? There's something I didn't think about, and it's because of the inconsistent number of games played. Everybody played the same number of games, I think, for all seasons except the first COVID year, if I'm not mistaken. And maybe I can do the math that way. Because basically, so what I'm trying to figure out, I need to determine how many games are not covered by these players in the time frame we're looking at, because then that'll tell us how many games we need from players outside of the ones that are on the active roster. And so because it's not consistent across all those seasons for all those players, then I might need to do some fancy math. I don't want to. Okay. 20, 21. No. 1920 NHL season. Is it the exact same? It's the same for everybody there, same for everybody there. Then slightly different for this season too. Well, this might be more work than I wanted it to be. Is there any way to shorten it? $68 to $71. It's close. Is close enough good enough? I think in this case it's going to be being off by 3 games. If I take the maximum, we overestimate, then we can't go wrong. So that's what I'll do, is I'll overestimate how many games we're missing. And then that way I think it's fair. Okay, so that's what I'll do then. So we've got equals $71 plus $56 plus, oh yeah, 82. I didn't even need to look. 82 plus, and then standings. What is the maximum games is what I want. So 61. I think that's it. This is a bit too far from the accuracy I want, but it'll have to be good enough. So what I would need to do is for each player figure out the number of games in the first COVID year, number of games played to date this year, and then figure out the difference. And I just don't think it's worth it. No, you know what? I might have to do that, because if I'm going to be projecting performance, it has to be, because then I'm going to be underestimating our performance if I don't get it accurate. Damn, that sucks. That totally sucks. Okay, well, how can I do this? We want Okay, so I think that's gonna work. So the base is 56 plus 82. So I can only do 2 seasons. And then there is an easy way for me to do this, or at least relatively easy, or comparatively easy. Sweet. So Aho is Carolina. Pedersen is Vancouver. Perron. Which team was he on for that season? Was it Vegas? St. Louis? Okay, so it was St. Louis. That was 71. Reinhardt, he was Buffalo. And then so Buffalo was 69. DeBrincat, I don't even know. Chicago, maybe. Okay. Chicago played 70 games. Toffoli, where was he? Toffoli. God, I can't even remember where he played before. Did he play for Los Angeles? Did, okay. Los Angeles is 70. Larkin is Detroit. 71. Niederreiter. Where was he playing? Nashville? No. Where else did he play? Oh, almost spelt it right. Where was he? Carolina. He was there that long? I didn't even realize. Carolina 68. In 1920, he was with Chicago. I think that was it, wasn't it? Chicago 70. Maybe this is easier. 1920 was Wild. 69. Where did Corey Perry play? Dallas. '69. Didn't we have the Wild already? I think Parisi, right? Yep. Sprong. Is that the Wild as well? Washington. And he's got bad hair, no offense, Sprong, but so 1920 was Anaheim. 71. Vince Dunn. St. Louis. 71. Is Calgary. 70. One thing I want to check is, was Pedersen even playing that year? Yeah, it was. Okay, good. And nobody else is too young, I don't think. 1920s Boston. 70. Montour. Buffalo, which was Reinhardt. Gustafson. Too many Gustafsons. Wrong Gustafson. So he was... So that's 66 games. Chicago primarily. was the other team? Calgary. That makes it easy. They're both the same. This is the right Gustafson, I hope. $212 games. 367 minus 41 minus 35 minus 79. Yeah, good. Too many Gustafsons. Just want to make sure I'm not screwing up, and because I don't know by face right now. Okay, that's good. Giordano. 1920 was Calgary, and Calgary was 70. And Clifton's, I think, only played for Boston, right? Yeah. And Boston. 70. Okay. Now we need this season. So that's plus 56. Pedersen is plus 57. Perron is with Detroit. Plus 56. Reinhardt is with Florida. 60. DeBrinket's with Ottawa. 56. Toffoli, Calgary. 58. Larkin is Detroit. 56. Niederreiter is... Where's Niederreiter right now? I can't remember. Nashville. 255. Kubelik's Detroit. Parisi is Islanders. Perry is Tampa. Donato, where it's Seattle, isn't it? I think. Sprong likewise, I believe. Dunn is also Seattle. Brody is Toronto. Grizzlick is Boston. Montour is Florida, I believe. Gustafson is Washington, I think. Giordano is Toronto. And Clifton is Boston. Pedersen, Prawn, Reinhardt. It's Florida. Brinkett is Ottawa. Toffoli. Calgary. Larkin, yes. Niederreiter is Nashville. Kublik, yes. Breezy, yes. Perry, yes. Donato, yes. Brown, yes. Dunn, yes. Brody, Grizzlick, Montour, Gustafson, Giordano, and Clifton. Good. Okay, so we've got the divisor correct. Equals that plus that. Delete that. Move that down one. Get that. Equals that plus that. So now what I've been working on will make sense once you see what I'm doing here. We will go like actually, let's go move this to the end. Oh, wait. We want the whole thing. Oh, whoops. No, let's do it this way. Cool. Okay, so now I think I can do the math. So that equals that minus that. Equals that minus that. Maybe I should do this differently. I think that's going to be good enough for what I... So here's where I don't think I need to be overly specific. Yeah, I think that's good enough. Okay, so I might as well explain this now. So I don't think you can see this well. So what I'll do is make this larger. And I'll explain the whole thing. So there we go. Okay, so the whole purpose of what I was just doing there, which I don't know if I explained at the beginning, I can't recall now, but what I wanted to know was how many games would we need, or sorry, yeah, how many games are not covered by the players. Is that right? So wait. Give me a second. Yeah, I think that's right. Okay. Unless I made a stupid mistake. But I wanted to figure out how many games that could have been played were missed by the players that we selected. In effect, trying to figure out how many... oh, wait. I forgot about that. Give me a sec. I gotta think about this now. Wait. I just forgot about something and we'll have to adjust here. So bear with me a sec. This will all explain what I did. It'll all make sense, trust me, what I'm doing here. Okay, so now I can do it. Okay, now that's right. Okay, so sorry to have to redo that, but I forgot. It all makes sense now. So, okay, so what I was trying to figure out is how many games were missed from the starting roster that I've created. So we need 12 forwards every night. We need 6 defensemen every night. Oh, and did I do something else that I shouldn't have done? No, thankfully, intuitively, I was right anyways. Okay. Well, that's good. I don't have to redo that too. Okay. So going back. So I wanted to figure out how many games were missed from all the players that would make up the starting roster. So, for example, like I was saying, 12 forwards every night, 6 defensemen every night. I wanted to figure out how many games they should have played, figure out the different, so across all the seasons that we're looking at, which is the previous 4 seasons, including this season, how many games they should have played, how many games they actually played, and then that tells you the difference of games that needed to be made up by other players. So if we sum all the games missed per player, that lets us know how many games in total needed to have been covered of those top 12 players for forwards and outside of those top 6 defensemen. So the reason we're not including Daniel Sprong, as you'll see there, and Connor Clifton are, and this is where I was lucky, but intuition was good enough and I didn't make the mistake. We don't have 13 forwards playing every night, and we don't have 7 defensemen. So I just needed the total for the top 6 defense, top 12 forwards, and then figure out the difference between what they should have played versus what they actually played. And then that's the number of games that need to be made up by players other than those top 12 forwards and top 6 defense. So what we get as the result here is, so there's 181 games that should have been played by the top 12 forwards that were missed. If you take from that the number of games Daniel Sprong would play, that gets you the number of games that would need to be played. This is, again, approximations through 4 seasons. We can't get this perfect. So you subtract Daniel Sprong's games played, and then that gives you the number of games remaining to be made up over those 4 seasons. And it's only 75 for forwards. Again, it's probably more because more people are injured at any given moment, which means that you need maybe 3 players that come in and play. Anyways, again, approximation. So in total, approximately 75 games would would need to be made up by players other than these top 13 players, which on average is about 18.75 games per season through those 4 seasons. So really, that's not much we need to make up in terms of depth. We'll talk about that more in a bit, but just to begin with, that's quite good, to be honest. Which means that we've, all things considered, have had really healthy players, which is why they've produced at the level that they have, which is why we've chosen them. But in any case, we weren't choosing because of health necessarily, not exclusively performance either. It's the combination of performance per time played compared to other players and so on. Anyways, what you would have seen in all the streams where I selected these players. So really good starting point for forwards, way better than I was expecting. And again, I'll show you why in a couple minutes. So next, to talk about defense, so we've got 180 games missed from the top 6. And if you subtract the number of games played... Oh, wait. Did I do stupid math? I think I did a stupid math. Give me a sec. I did do a stupid math. That's even better. So hold on. That's even better than I was hoping. Okay, so what it actually is, sorry, going back to forwards here, is going to be the 181 missed minus the actual games played by Sprong, which is only 21 games across 4 seasons, which is 5 per season, 5.25. And I hope you can see the logic of where I made the mistake and then how I fixed it. So we have games missed, games played by Sprong that replaces those games missed, and then we have the remainder, which is 21. So my bad on that. Again, this isn't a perfect science, but it's good enough. Now we do the same thing for defense. Equals games, whoops, wrong column. Equals games missed. Stupid. I putting it in the wrong spot to be consistent. Equals games missed minus games played by Clifton. We're actually at a surplus games played. Equals that divided by 4 seasons. So a surplus of 2.75 games. And I hope you see the logic there. So we have games missed by the starting or the best 12 forwards, best 6 defensemen. We fill in those games missed by our depth players, Daniel Sprong for forwards, Connor Clifton for defense. And then we have the remaining games, in theory, that would need to be replaced by players not already on our active roster that we've selected. And so it's 5.25 games per season for forwards, and we're at a surplus for defense of 2.75 games per season. Again, approximations, because like I said, you could have 5 of the forwards all injured at the same time. You need 5 replacements. and Daniel Sprong can't fit all 5 spots, obviously. Um, so that's where this isn't perfect what we've demonstrated here, but it's gives you a good indication of, for one, all the players have been relatively healthy. Um, Two, we should, in theory, be able to compensate for a chunk of the games missed with our one depth player per position, forwards and defense. Um, and then all else is minimal and probably will have a negligible impact on team performance. So that's something we'll keep in mind as we're doing things tomorrow when we're analyzing, forecasting the team and their performance. So that's way better results than I was expecting. Super interesting. In the end, I mean, we won't really be able to do much more than what I just did, but it's really neat, I think. So now the thing that makes this especially interesting, I guess you could say, and also what kind of um, can be argued against what I've just said, is the data that we gathered previously, and I'll show you what I mean. So just a sec to pull things up. What's a good way to display this? Let's do it like this. Yeah, you don't need to see those for the moment. Oh, and we should, sorry, bear with me here. Okay, so we want forwards and defense. Okay, so for forwards, remember, this is where, I mean, I don't want to pat myself on the back too hard, but to have anticipated the usefulness of this work that I did is pretty darn good. Shows that I definitely do think about things quite deeply. And again, I don't want to dislocate my shoulder patting myself on the back too hard, but pretty good foresight to actually have done this analysis, given that I barely did any prep work in terms of planning. It's like I've said always, is that I do things on the spot. I really haven't spent much time planning the whole series. Maybe the subjects, but the fact that I didn't really miss anything in planning for the series, I impress myself sometimes. So anyways, sorry not to, I hope it doesn't come across as arrogant. I'm just, it's okay to be proud of your work sometimes. So anyways, what I've just said will make sense now. So what I did is I took a look at how many players were required per team per season to give us an idea of how deep the roster needs to be. So what we found, and I have to remember how I calculated this. 582, where is the 582 coming from? So that's the number of games played 5 forwards in the season. See, it's been so long. 582 divided by 30 teams. Wait, 582 divided by 12 players? Where did I get the 582? That was the total number. I think that's what it was. Okay, so what I think that was the actual number of players, number of forwards with stats during that season. Yeah, because it changes for each season. So what I did, I believe, was at NHL.com, when you go and you get the stats, it'll tell you the total number of data points, which represents the total number of players. Divide that by the number of teams. See, the reference here is A21. A21 is 30 games. And then that gets you the number of, 30 teams. And that gets you the number of players required for that season per team. So hopefully you followed me there. So on average, across the 30 teams during the 2013-14 season, the average number of players used was 19.4. So for forwards, as you know, there's 12 forwards, which means that 7.4 were used on average per team during that season. So that's where, like I said, it's not perfectly realistic to say that all the games are eaten up by the depth player, because on average 7 per team. One thing I would argue is that they don't have the best players, so then some players move in and out. Some is due to injury. There's a whole bunch of different factors, obviously, but performance is probably a big factor. In our case, I would argue our team is very concrete, very good. We'll see that tomorrow once we do all the analysis, but in theory, it's supposed to be very good, very concrete. So then, in all likelihood, we wouldn't actually need 7 up to, in 2021-22, 8.59 forwards per team. So I would say, in all likelihood, assuming we're healthy, our number is going to be lower than average. But, and then just give me a second, I want to think. Yeah, okay, that's good. Yeah, so we're probably going to be lower than average, where maybe it's something like an extra 3 players, maybe a bit more. It could even be up to the average, because also the players that we select to come up during injury, or even in the case of bad performance, we're going to be choosing different players sometimes. So there could be more. It all depends, because we're going to be going based on the better player to replace either the injured player or the underperforming player. So it could be 7, it could be more. It's hard to say. But just at least superficially from the data gathering, the analysis I just did, in theory we would need less, because we have healthy players that perform well. But like I said, there's a bunch of different factors where in actuality we would probably use somewhere around the average, maybe 7 players. So, basically, yeah, so that's where this is probably useful information where we're probably not going to be at the extreme number of players needed. So, for example, the greatest amount was 8.59 players beyond the starting lineup required for forward. I think that's unlikely, like I said, but whatever. Anyways, what we're seeing here is there is a substantial number of players that you need to be deep in your roster. So, so the analysis before, partially it was cheating because I'm going to need that data for tomorrow, like I said at the beginning of the stream. But also it was good information to know how many games we need to replace from games missed. So we know that there's really not much. But like I said, to be realistic, we probably would use a chunk of different players rather than just our one depth player. So, so for forwards, we're probably going to need to go somewhere around the average deep of 7 players. We've got one in Daniel Sprong, which leaves us 6 approximately deep of players we need in our system. Now, looking at defense, the range was 9.77 defensemen needed during a season up to 10.78. So between 3.77 extra defensemen you need outside of the starting 6 and 4.78 players more than the starting 6. So so again, as we've discovered, we actually have a surplus in the case of defensemen of games that can be filled by the depth player. Again, in reality, because of poor performance or multiple injuries at once, we're probably going to need towards the average, which is going to be 4.18 defensemen. So I would guess 4 defensemen. So really, well, I guess that's kind of an easy way to consider it is what we discovered for forwards. 7 is close to 6, which is 2 lines worth of forwards, and 4 is close to 4 defensemen, which is 2 lines of defensemen. So, big picture, the conclusion is, well, we already had it from the stream that we did on number of players needed per team, but to apply it to our team, we have our 7th defenseman, so we really need 3 other depth defensemen. And then for our forwards, we have 1, which means we need another 6 outside of the depth player that's on the roster. So, and again, these are approximations for, again, factoring in all of the things I've spoken about already. So, now the thing is what I could do, what I thought about maybe doing was to go through depth players using the same methods that I previously used to select the players to then select depth players. Now, what I would argue is it wouldn't really accomplish much. It's just finding specific players, and in reality, I can kind of approximate their production using the depth players I already have because it's so close to the number of games that would need to be made up anyways. Um, would it be an overestimation of production? Yes, because like I said, let's say you have three guys injured at the same time. Sprong, for example, for forward comes in, or well, let's say three forwards, Sprong comes in for one. You need two guys to fill that spot. Those two guys, in theory, probably produce less than Sprong, which means that the production represented by Sprong in replacing the games missed from the top 12 players, would be an overestimation. So, if all of that made sense in that run-on sentence that I just did. So if we estimated using Sprong, we're going to be overstating, but it's close enough because, again, remember, Sprong is our 13th forward. A 13th forward compared to our 14th, 15th, 16th, and so on is negligible in terms of the difference, I would predict. And we can actually should I do it today or should I do it tomorrow? I might as well do it today. We can approximate it by looking at what we did for performance expectations. So if we pull up that and then we go to the tiers of players that we did. So we know that our 12th forward here, I should make this bigger so you can see it better. So we know from the data analysis I did previously, and again, foresight, not too bad, Thomas. Our 13th forward, the expected performance is approximately 4 goals, 5 assists, 9 points in a season. The difference between that and the 14th, 3 goals, 3 assists, 6 points, is 3 points, which that's 1 goal, 2 assists. Difference between that player and the 15th player is 2 goals, 2 assists, 4 points, but this says 3 points. So really, if I use Daniel Sprong as an approximation of the rest of the performance, the difference is what? 2 goals here, 2 assists there. I mean, it's very negligible, the difference. Also, I would argue that the effort, although I could have maybe done more, in finding the players that I did find, in theory, I could apply it to the 14th forward, 15th forward, all our guys that would be playing in the AHL. So, really, I would still argue that Daniel Sprong as our 13th forward should be representative of our 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, and so on. So to use him tomorrow in an approximation of our performance for our depth, so our AHL depth players, should be close enough. And like I said, it's a negligible difference probably in the end. Now, if we consider defense, we are thinking about, what was it again there? 4 extra players that we would need to use on average. So the difference between our, well, actually it's our 7th defenseman 1 goal, 6 assists, 7 points in a season for our 7th defenseman, which is supposed to be Clifton. Between that and our 8th, there's 1 goal difference, 4 assists, 3 points, 4 points approximately. So, what was that? 1 plus, so it's actually 4 or 5 points. 3 to 5 points? Yeah, 3 to 5 points difference because there's a difference between goals, assists, and points. But the difference between 3 to 5 points is, again, negligible. Do we really need to go and find other depth defensemen that would fill in the 8th, 9th, and whatever when we know that it's going to be pretty darn close to our 7th defenseman anyways? So when I do projections, estimations for our total team production, really that's going to be good enough to serve for purposes of like forecasting. So that's two things where it's good that I did extra work and determine, like we saw here, depth, defenseman sufficiently deep, which I didn't even really plan for. I just did it intuitively, and then likewise for forwards, the extra players there. So anyways, to kind of summarize the points that I've said here, don't really need to find more depth players. What we have is pretty representative of what we would find. And then as a result, our forecasts are going to be pretty good given what we already have. Now, the last thing, there's only really one other thing I wanted to, two things I wanted to discuss. Just give me 1 second. I want to make sure I made some very, very small notes. Because like I said, I don't do much prep work before the streams. I made some very small notes to remind me to cover a couple subjects. So just 1 sec. So it was two-way and entry level. So those are the two things. Okay, so first regarding, I think entry level is the best part to start at. So when we've put together these teams, actually, you know what? You don't need to see the... what will I leave up here? Give me 1 sec. So just, you can kind of, as I'm talking, look at the full roster, because I think that's maybe interesting. I was going to just have it on me, but it's probably better that you can also see that in consideration of everything. So first thing I want to talk about now is entry-level contracts. So we've already discovered that for the most part, we've got players that should make up all the games that we need to fill. And so as a result, we don't really require that much more depth. And like I said, our depth players, Sprong, and, well, it's Clifton in this case. Maybe I should change that. Let's put Giordano there. So what was I saying? Yeah, so our depth players are going to be representative of any other players that would go and fill missed games due to injury or poor performance. So keeping that in mind, the other thing that we haven't even thought about, and I never even gave myself the option of using it, was we have no entry-level contracts on our team. Now, in reality, what we actually have is a really good team, and we haven't even benefited from drafting and developing. So consider that. Like, I mean, to think about how good this team, I hope, we'll see tomorrow when we actually do all the forecasting and stuff like that. I didn't even use to our benefit the ability to use entry level contract players that are good. So we only have what's it called? Uh, SPCs, standard player contracts, I think, is the abbreviate acronym, um, and the term. Um, and so we don't even have, yeah, like I said, the benefit of entry level contracts. So if we also can draft and develop well, how much better of a team are you actually going to have beyond what we have here? It would be crazy, the improvements to the team. Now, that's one point I wanted to make about uh, something that I didn't even use as a way to make up a roster that could have made the team even better. Um, and on top of it, I didn't choose the best players that I could have possibly chosen. So just think about that. Like, I handicapped my ability to put together a good roster with two massive factors that could have improved the roster. So again, we'll see what the actual results are with our forecast tomorrow, but I am predicting that our performance is going to be outstanding. But anyways, and especially in contrast to current teams, past teams, and so on. So, anyways, so that's just a couple points about the makeup of the roster that we didn't get to include because of the limitations I imposed. So we're probably going to have a good team without even those benefits. Now, what I actually wanted to talk about was those entry level contracts for purposes of what we're discussing today, which is depth players in the filling out of the roster. So the importance of depth players is what we would want to do, I would argue. And I don't know if it's really maximized currently in the NHL. I would have to, take a closer look, and I don't know if I'd even be able to evaluate things in any sort of measurable way or concrete, clear way, but those entry level contracts are of extreme importance, I would argue, for, well, player development for one, but also your ability to be competitive. And so, and to maintain a really good roster for a long time. So the thing about those entry level contracts is the ability for them to go up and down without being at risk of being claimed. For two-way contracts where people don't meet the criteria, they can be claimed as they go. The direction I think is down where they can be claimed, but not up when they get brought up to the roster. So whenever you have a guy, let's say Daniel Sprong was a two-way contract, and we want to send him down to the minors, he can get claimed by all the rest of the teams. And if we make up a good roster, as I believe we probably have here, we can't risk losing those players unless they're just not good enough. So, in theory, what you would want to do is fill out those roster spots with, hopefully, entry-level contracts that can go up and down with no risk. That way, you never lose any good players, and you can fill up roster spots, starting lineup spots that are empty due to injury or poor performance or whatever. So, problem is poor performance. You'd have to send them down, and you can't. You don't really want to do that. So, really, what you want is good depth players on entry level contracts that you can bring up for injury. And really, that's the optimal way to do things. Now, worst case scenario, let's say all this strategy I just did doesn't work out that great, and let's say maybe a portion of our fourth line and depth players, let's say all four, worst case scenario, aren't consistent enough, and we need to move them down and move other players up. What you would want to avoid is those players that can be claimed when you send them down. So, like, let's say, Corey Perry, you send down, somebody claims them. Donato, send down, somebody claims them. All those guys, because I think they're all one ways. They should be, I believe. What you don't want is all those guys, because, the work we've done, we know that they're very consistent and very good, in theory. You don't want those guys getting claimed. So really, you very strongly want to avoid using two-way contract players to move up and down. The only way you would want to do that is, for one, if your depth is not that great. Let's say we weren't able to get players as good as this in our fourth line and 13th forward roster spot. Let's say we couldn't get them. Maybe two-way players you could move up and down, and you would have to just risk them getting claimed. And that's not even factoring in if you had entry-level contracts to move up and down as well. So only in an absolute worst case scenario would you ever want to use two-way contracts to fill up spots due to injury or poor performance. You really, in all cases, want to avoid that. You want to focus on drafting and developing, having those players play the top two line minutes in the AHL, and for being good enough for those spots to play those minutes, they should be good enough to come in to their equivalent spot on the NHL roster. That's what you want, is you want those guys to be able to move up to where they should be playing if they're going to fill somebody's spot due to injury. And then as soon as the guy comes back, in all likelihood, they're going to be better than the entry-level contract guy, maybe. And then that entry-level contract guy goes back down to the minors to play at the level they're supposed to be at, to develop into the player that they'll become, and will eventually replace a guy that has an expiring contract or is retiring or whatever. So anyways, that's kind of the way that I would try to optimize the roster movements. Now, that's in an ideal world, but I mean, again, we're kind of giving ourselves not the best of cases scenario, all things considered, in producing this roster, adding in the other flexibilities of entry-level contracts from drafting and developing. In reality, I mean, we're probably an even better team with more flexibility and so many more options. But anyways, so to kind of summarize, that's where those depth players are important. As we've established, we know that we need, for defense, 4 defensemen extra, and forwards about 7 extra, minus our 1 forward and 1 defense that are on the active roster, Sprong and Clifton, as I've spoken of. So it's 3 defense in the minors that you need to be able to move up due to injury, preferably all entry-level contracts, and then 6 forwards, preferably, again, all entry-level contracts. So that's the strategy I would recommend, if at all possible, and only to dip in those into those two-way contracts if your fourth line and depth player on your active roster aren't that great, or you don't have entry-level contract guys that are good enough to move up and down. So that's kind of what I would say is how you optimize your depth players. And for normal teams, because as we've discovered, in theory, we probably wouldn't need to use too many players from the minors to come up. I forget where the root of what I was just saying there was, but anyways, we probably won't need as many players deep into the minors, but if you add in what would be realistic to a normal team, we'd have probably at least a forward and a defenseman that could come up on entry-level contracts that are good enough to play NHL minutes. And so, I mean, even in the absolute worst case scenario, handicapping ourselves in so many ways, we're probably still in fantastic shape with the way that it's all structured from the strategy that I created. So with the work that I've done, if GMs did the same kind of stuff, again, I'm not a GM. I don't know if I've missed anything. Maybe I'm overstating my capabilities and ability to, put together a roster like this, but we're kind of working in concepts anyways. Even in like worst case scenarios, you're still going to be perfectly fine applying the kind of things that I've done here. So anyways, I think that kind of summarizes everything. There's not really much more to say. We do know from that previous stream and the spreadsheet that I showed you, we do know that you need those depth players. If your roster managed more poorly than what I've done and what I'm proposing as a management strategy for NHL GMs. If you don't do all these things, then yes, you might need to use two-way contracts. Yes, you might have a lot more movement, a lot more complications, players claimed, and all that stuff. You can do it if you target the right players and still be okay, because you might get a guy claimed, but if you have let's say 3 lines deep in your AHL of serviceable players that can come up and play NHL minutes, then you're fine. There's lots of workarounds to still protect the integrity, the performance of your roster, even if you've screwed up completely with the way that you've made up your roster. There's lots of options. But in the case that you're a bad GM, those depth players are really important. It's extremely important that they're entry-level contracts. And if you have a bad roster, no entry-level contracts, you need to be extremely deep. Probably 3 lines in your AHL roster of depth players that can come up. Though that's all your options to still have a competitive team. And as a result of all these different options that we have for depth players, there's no excuse. I don't understand why so many GMs do such poor jobs of managing their franchises. Again, easier said than done. Easy when I'm some nobody fan talking about all these strategies. Whatever the term is, blue sky. Whatever it's called, where you're coming up with a blank slate of any opportunity you want to be able to put together this excellent roster. Yeah, sure. But I don't see why not. I don't see why GMs can't apply this strategy and have effective rosters, and why nobody's really doing it. I don't understand. But anyways, that kind of summarizes the importance of depth players, and otherwise it shows where GMs are severely lacking in their capabilities, or I would argue severely lacking. So anyways, that's it for today. If you like the stream, hit the like button, share with your friends, subscribe, turn on notifications. Otherwise, channel homepage has upcoming streams. Should be 2 p.m. Eastern daily, except for Sundays. If you have any comments, leave them in the comments. Suggestions likewise. And tomorrow should be the final stream of the series, where, well, you already know what the full roster is, but we're going to talk about team performance forecasting, comparing to other teams, seeing if there's other teams that have similar structure to what I've done. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of different things. Assuming we have the time, I could split it up into second stream depending on how things go, but we'll play that by ear. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to tomorrow. I really want to see how the forecasting is going to look with the roster that I put together. I think it's going to be fantastic. Is it? I don't know. We'll see. But I'm predicting the team's going to look really good and really competitive. And without knowing, because of, like I said, I do all this stuff on the spot. I only know the subject, don't know the results. If I had to predict, even with all the limitations I've imposed on myself, not having entry-level contracts, not choosing the best players, only choosing contracts that are like 3 to 5 years in length, severely limiting my options, I still think, if I had to predict, this is going to be the best NHL team of forecasting the performance. And yeah, I would be surprised if it's not. I was going to say shocked, but shocked is maybe too strong of a word. I would be surprised if I turn out being wrong in my prediction that this is going to be the best team. But we'll see tomorrow. Interested to see. I won't cheat and do any extra work today and figure that out. We'll all see tomorrow how good the team actually is with our predictions and stuff, so, and forecasts and all that. So anyways, hope you guys enjoyed. I'm super excited. We'll see how things go, and yeah, we'll see you tomorrow.